What a sight it is to see the A1GP cars lined up in all their different national liveries as we prepare for the pace lap here behind the pace car, just to set them off, get a bit of tyre temperature up. This will be a chance to see how dry the track is. And let's just wait for that green flag. It is now waved and away goes the grid. 23 V8 engines powering their way, and it's a wonderful noise even off the line. If it's not a standing start this time, it resonates through our commentary box here, and it's South Africa that leads them down to Tarzan.
Yes, and pretty much everybody on the right-hand side of the track was very quick to pull over to the left, the drier side, because of course keeping heat in your tyres or trying to build heat back up. The cars have been sitting for about 10 minutes in the grid, some maybe even longer. They will have tyre covers on to retain whatever heat they had at the end of their exploration laps, but now running at this relatively slow speed, they're not going to get the chance to generate very much temperature. That's why drivers are weaving around to try and put energy into the sidewall of the tyre to get heat, to build it through the entire tyre carcass, not just simply the surface of the tyre.
The mass of people off the grid now. The grid has been cleared. Look around the track. The drivers will be assessing as much as possible here where the dry bits are and where the damp parts are. The problem is when you go side by side with another car, that's when you can get into trouble.
Well, certainly this section of circuit, I would not imagine too many drivers will attempt to do that, particularly as they approach. This is turn 5, very, very quick. A blind approach, bumpy on the entry to the corner. Big commitment, certainly in qualifying. The leading drivers were just coming off the throttle, breathing the engine, then back on in 5th gear, whereas initially the circuit, that was a 4th gear corner. As the rubber went down, the grip came, but with all the rain that fell last night, there have not been any other races prior to the start of the sprint race, so this track has gone green, and there will not be the level of grip that drivers enjoyed in qualifying on Saturday afternoon.
So watch for some mishaps. There's no doubt it's going to be very tricky out there. We heard from front row man Salvador Duran. He looked fairly anxious about the possibilities of mistakes being made on the opening laps. It's only 12 laps here. You've got very little time in which to improve on your grid position. You've got to go from it. It's like a Formula Ford sprint race rather than a long distance tactical race.
Because the other thing we have to watch for will be the use of the power boost button. You'll have 4 opportunities to use that, but coming onto the straight through turns 11 and 12 in qualifying, that was flat for everybody. But in race conditions, it isn't flat. You've got to breathe the engine in 5th gear. So you're not going to be able to get yet to use that button until really you move flat on the throttle 5th into 6th. Anytime you lift off the throttle, that disengages the power boost. So therefore you lose the benefit of horsepower that you'd gained by operating it in the first place.
They're slowing it right down, trying to get that grid to close up here. And Adrian Zaug is on the inside. It's the Mexican car that's actually ahead at the moment. They've got to get themselves side by side, otherwise they won't be given the start signal by Roland Brunserade, who's race director here this weekend. Very experienced race director. The cars are now assembling well as they come through the last 2 corners. The Ari Lyndike curve is the last one. They really are going slowly, and I hope that this doesn't cause any stalled engines or problems, because when you're going this slowly, race engines can be a little temperamental.
Also, look how close the grid is bunched together. I mean, there's barely space between side by side, let alone nose to tail, so the grid extremely close. Now Zaug is going to have to build up speed. They can't go until they come across the line. That red light will go green, but look at the field spread out already, and we've got a race.
We're racing in A1GP, second season, and it's South Africa leads. Mexico trying to go down the outside and France on the inside. Everybody drives into Tarzan. Mexico with the lead. Mexico has grabbed the advantage from South Africa. Great move from Salvador Duran. That was brave, but here comes South Africa back it in. South Africa reclaims the top spot, and I think they've all managed. No, they haven't. Italy in trouble in the middle of the track at Tarzan. Alessandro Pierguidi, the only victim.
Well, that was a tough start for Zaug, because he'd never done a rolling start before. Duran got the advantage, but into Tarzan and out of Tarzan, Zaug came back and stamped his authority on the more experienced Mexican driver, and has already pulled out a gap as they come through turn 5.
France in 3rd, Germany in 4th, Great Britain in 5th place, then the United States in 6th. Looks like New Zealand's had a good start, up to 7th place already. Canada dropped back 8th place, Netherlands in 9th, and Switzerland in 10th. You're looking at New Zealand, the Black Beauty, just ahead of Canada. Matt Halliday has gained a place, and in fact he's now putting the pressure on Team USA. Halliday always quick in the damp conditions, could be one to watch there, New Zealand.
Well, in the meantime, the gap at front is opening up. Just watching Australia as it comes out, catching the off track. But there's the gap now.
New Zealand has taken USA. The black car down the inside, but can he hold it? USA now around the outside. There's a spin behind. Two cars in the gravel, but New Zealand gained the place. Now Canada, there's Indonesia recovering, and we've got a lot of dirt on the track.
Yes, next lap round cars coming through. There should be a wave flag to warn the drivers that there's a lot of mud being dragged onto the track through turns 11, turn 12. Now we have to watch to see is anybody going to use power boost, as India also got caught up with Indonesia.
So it's South Africa leading from Mexico, France in third place, Germany, then Great Britain, New Zealand up to 6th position, and they qualified in 9th. So New Zealand, the team on a move at the moment. Team Ireland coming across the line in 15th. I thought they'd gained one. They may have lost another place as they went around on that lap. Malaysia's looking pretty racy too. Malaysia running in 11th place, the yellow colours of Team Malaysia on the back of that group, which also contains the all-orange car of host nation, the Netherlands.
Well, other than that contact that we saw in turns 9 and 10, and Italy, it appears to have an independent spin in the tires and hairpin in the first lap. So the field now beginning to settle down. The nerves that drivers must have sent as they sat on the grid waiting. They weren't really quite sure. Tire mark, I think, on the side of South Africa's car on the side pod on the left-hand side. I think there was mild contact between Mexico and South Africa somewhere on the exit of Tarzan, or maybe into that turn 2 before the hook and hools happened.
Now remember, fastest laps matter in this race as well. Battle there going on between Brazil and Ireland. That is for 14th position. New colours on the Brazilian car, new colours on the Irish car as well. Very distinctive. That bright green. Yellow flags here at this section though. And now look, Mexico really closing up on South Africa.
I think that was a Zag slowed down correctly for those very vigorously waved yellow flags. Remember, we saw muck and dirt dragged onto the track of that part of the circuit, and Mexico maybe overran it, took advantage, but now the gap once again. Watch for France. Are they going to dive to defence? Wait and see. Come down. Defence. Can he go down the inside? He's going to have a look down the inside, but not close enough.
Oh, that's so close into Tarzan corner. 170 miles an hour before they got on the brakes there, jostling for position, and France couldn't quite find enough space on the inside. South Africa still leads. Mexico sliding ahead of us here. We're on board with Team France into the hook and hold hairpin, turn 3 on this sandwalk course, climbing up the hill, and now into the fast sweepers.
So Team France already showing that they are not satisfied with their position, and they have a run. The strength that France has had, we saw it all last year, is that their car is very, very good in high-speed corners, where the balance of the car is critical. They got to run off the corner, they got to run with the aerodynamic toe, principally from Mexico, but he didn't have quite enough. There was defence, that was fair from Mexico. They didn't make more than one move to defend that position. Now Lapierre right on the gearbox, can do nothing around this part of the track. This is through turn 7 into turn 8, a little bit back end breaking away. All he can do is really keep in contact with Mexico all the way down the straight up to 240 k's per hour, then hard on the brakes down to second gear into turns 9 and 10. Flags have been removed. Everybody knows there was a little bit of muck on the track there. It's still there, but they can make their way around it.
The fourth of these lead cars is Team Germany, and they set the fastest lap last time around. Behind them then it's Great Britain, a little bit lonely. New Zealand still in 6th, then the United States. You see the Indian car, by the way, being craned out of the way. There was no need for a safety car, and as we come around this time, another lap completed. It's South Africa opening up a gap. 3 laps completed over Mexico, France, Germany, Great Britain. There is New Zealand, a little bit on its own as well, ahead of the USA and Canada. The Netherlands defending busily here from Switzerland. Switzerland having a think.
Well, Switzerland going one way and the other, partly to try and find a way past, but also maybe to try and distract Jerome Blekemuller, to try and make him drive on his mirrors and not drive ahead. Clearly, Buemi in Team Switzerland has got more natural pace at this point, but of course the question is, can he take advantage of it? Can he find a way past? What I noticed in that camera shot looking down to the exit of turn 12 was how many cars were very, very loose on the exit of the corner.
This was the start, John, and Mexico initially ahead, but did they go a bit too wide?
Yes, he went very wide, then he cut back quite sharply, and that might have been where there was that little bit of contact. Italy just got caught in the middle of that bunch going into the Tarzan, and maybe he just got clipped and spun around. That's the blue car, we're just looking at it. Can't quite see a reason for it so far. Well, the car went down the inside. I'm not sure. It was a white car. We can't quite identify it, but there was contact.
Here we are back looking at that start again from the onboard view with how it was from France's. You could see Mexico went very wide.
And France nearly got the benefit of all that because Zag also was a little bit wider than he need be, but the situation is that it's South Africa, Mexico and France, and that's how they started the grid.
Look how South Africa is easing away now. I say easing away, they're storming away. Look at the lead.
But watch behind, Nicolas Lapierre again getting under the rear wing of Mexico, but not really close enough to dive down the inside. It's a Duran late on the brakes. He knows he can afford to run slightly wide because there is no opportunity for France to get under him. So relatively easy defense for Mexico, but Zaug, South Africa, 1.5 seconds at the end of lap 3.
And he's taken fastest lap, so that's very important in trying to take pole position for the feature race, and he's on target to do that at the moment if he wins this. Oh, and we've got Singapore. Yeah, a Singapore and a spin. Looks as though they may have been in contact with another car. That's Christian Murchison driving for the new team.
Now, if he can't move that car in the space of the next 30 or so seconds, that could see the safety car deployed, which would bring back the advantage that particularly South Africa. There's the dive double again, Ananda Mikkola. That was a no-hooper. I mean, what Ananda Mikkola thought he might get away with there. Well, he's clobbered the right rear of Singapore's car. That car will not move without outside assistance.
So Singapore in trouble there as a result of being hit by Indonesia. The race leader still South Africa. Second place for Mexico. France in third. Germany in fourth. Great Britain still in that rather lonely fifth place. They're some 4 seconds off the lead. 2 seconds behind the next car on the lap. And once again, South Africa looking good. Drive-through penalty to Team Indonesia as a result of that last incident.
I'm not surprised, and Switzerland has finally got past Netherlands. Sebastian Buem, who had to be dropped from his 8th place down to 11th because of a technical infringement, has finally found a way past the Netherlands. And you see that line of cars that got lined up all the way behind the Netherlands. One has made it past. Wave yellow flags. That's because the Singapore car, it is now safely on the inside of the circuit. And I think the driver might still be sitting in the car.
Marshall's being very effective here at Zandvoort. Very good at getting cars out of the way and not meaning that we're getting safety car. Another quick lap from South Africa on that last lap. And Great Britain still pushing on at the moment. They're in 5th place, but there's this other gaggle here, now led by Canada, running in 8th, Netherlands 9th, Switzerland right behind, China, Malaysia, and Australia, all part of that gaggle.
Well, looking down at the people that have used Power Boost, the one that has used most of the running front 4 cars is in fact France. It's only got 1 shot left, and that's been used primarily to try and find a way past. Well, looking just as good into turn 5, this onboard shot from the Netherlands looking forward to Switzerland. They overtook the Netherlands car 1 lap earlier in there. The drive-through penalty for Ananda Mikkola in the Indonesia car for that. Yep. I mean, that was a poor judgment for Mikkola in attempting a pass that was never ever on.
That's right, so he's paid the price for that.
Safety car.
And it's the medical car actually that's out there. So the medical car has nipped out onto circuit to get to another part of the track, but I don't think this is going to affect the race. They're way in a separate part of the track to where the rest of the gaggle is, and we'll wait to see Adrian Zhao come through. He has come past us already, and he has a big lead, opening up all the time over Mexico. 2.4 seconds the gap now. France still in third, under a second behind Mexico. Then it's Germany, then it's Great Britain.
His advantage, Adrian Zaug's advantage, really is in the last sector, but in particular through turns 11 and 12. He is much quicker through that part of track. Now, what is going on here? There's yellow flags.
Trying to get past the Netherlands.
Well, that was he had been ahead of the Netherlands. Where he lost that position, we didn't see that, but Netherlands back ahead of Switzerland, running just behind Canada.
That's still very close, this gaggle. China's in there as well. Frankie Cheng, new driver to Team China for this year, been racing in the UK over the last couple of years, in fact. Right behind the Chinese car there is Team Malaysia, then Australia, the yellow and blue colours of Australia, followed by Brazil and Ireland. Ireland on the back of this group as well, so all the way down to 15th. We've got 8th to 15th here, pretty much all together, but nobody as yet has found a way to get past it. Apart from them, Canada, they managed to nip past the Netherlands a little while ago. This was that move a moment ago, though.
Well, that's defence coming from the Netherlands, but Switzerland trying to poke the nose down the inside. And they just keeps the position, but we never saw the reason why Switzerland, who'd overtaken the Netherlands 2 laps ago, lost that position.
Medical car is back into position now, so whatever they had to deal with has been dealt with, and it hasn't caused any interruption to this race. Half distance now, 6 laps have been completed out of the 12, and now as he crosses the line, it's only 5 to go for South Africa to take their first. Oh, he gets a big slide on there.
He got that white line, and white lines are always, when the track is damp, there's a lot of moisture in the air, particularly slippery, and he just put the wheel against that, and the back of the car just started to drift around, got the correction on, kept the car in control, but it just shows you how easy it is. One little error like that by using too much of the racetrack can catch you out.
Switzerland's dropped back a little bit off Netherlands now after their attempt to get past last time around. So the Swiss car, the third in line here, has got China breathing down its neck. There's Canada, new driver James Hinchcliffe, another teenager, been racing in Formula Atlantic in the States over this last 12 months, but he's now got to protect from this orange car. Once again, Bleekemolen would love to get the Dutch car back up ahead of Team Canada, and if anybody knows any tricky overtaking manoeuvres around this Zandvoort circuit, surely it's going to be Jeroen Bleekemolen.
Well, the key to passing here clearly is about exit out of that final turn 11 and 12, and the car that's done that most successfully has been South Africa. They're consistently the quickest car through that segment of circuit. Everybody behind in relative terms is not so good, and you can see from that camera shot looking up the main straight to the exit of corner how many of the drivers are having to battle oversteer, where the back end of the car is getting away. They're losing rear end grip, and that's causing them to lose momentum on the exit of 12. But South Africa have got a perfect car for that corner.
They have, and he's getting further and further out in front. I can tell you, we're riding on board with Team China here, though. China getting a little closer to the back of the Swiss car through the S's, but as they then come up through turns 11 and 12, the last two corners on the lap, see how much curve they use on the inside, and that's where it's hard to follow another car closely.
Yes, but here's the problem. Middle of watch the steering. Well, for Frankie China and China, not much difficulty going through the turn, but some drivers, you can see where their cars are more finely set up, that they've got oversteer on the exit, and that means they're having to breathe the engine mid-corner to keep the thing in check, to not allow it to get too far out of line and therefore get into trouble.
So things seem to have settled down into a little bit of a pattern now. South Africa continuing to open up their advantage, although their last lap wasn't quite as quick as the previous one. They do have fastest lap in this race so far, Team South Africa, on a 1:29.1, but that was a couple of laps ago, and they were in the 1 minute 30s last time around. Still watching the battle there between Canada and the Netherlands. That's for 8th place as we now go on board with Team France. We're in 3rd place with Nicolas Lapierre. Ahead is Mexico, but further up the road is Team South Africa, although I think South Africa's lead not quite as big as it was a couple of laps ago.
It's 2.2 seconds, and maybe now the car has reached the level where he's got no more speed. He had a very, very strong car in the opening laps, and particularly through these final two corners. The car looks so stable. You can hear he's able to keep the throttle open more and longer than anybody else coming through those final turns.
3 laps to go, says his pit board. Just 3 laps to go for South Africa to take their first win in A1GP. A 1:29.5, so that was a pretty quick lap that time from Zhao. The previous lap hadn't been so rapid, but he's on the pace once again. Mexico 2.5 seconds behind. France only half a second back themselves from that. And then further down the list, Germany, Great Britain, New Zealand. The United States currently running in 7th place ahead of Canada. The Netherlands in 9th, Switzerland in 10th. Then it's China and Malaysia. You're watching them come through. They're 11th and 12th. Australia 13th. Brazil is 14th. Ireland 15th. Lebanon in 16th, followed by the Czech Republic. Then it's Greece, Indonesia, Pakistan, and out of the race both Singapore and India.
But basically the whole field's experiencing the same problem, and that is where can we find that one opportunity to make a pass. And the principal place here on the circuit, of course, is at the end of the main straight into turn 1. The tires unhappen, but that's all being inhibited by the inability to get off those final 2 turns and take the advantage of the slipstream. You've got 4 shots of your power boost button. Interestingly, South Africa's only ever used theirs once, where Mexico and France have used it 3 times. Great Britain's used it 3 times, and it's only Germany who's got the same as South Africa, only 1 application of power boost.
Back on board with Team Netherlands, and still no chance of finding a way past Canada. It is a fairly short race, this one, very much a sprint race. The physical effort required won't really come into play in this race. That's going to be much more a factor in the feature race. Oh, Canada, a bit of a slide there. That could have left an opportunity.
Yes, indeed, and that's the penalty if you put your wheel off the curb. But the rain that fell overnight, the grass and the pit by the side of the circuit is absolutely saturated, so anybody who makes that little error will pay the penalty.
They're lapping Pakistan. South Africa already has got past Team Pakistan. Nur Ali has now got Mexico and France bearing down on him. This could allow an opportunity perhaps for Team France to get much closer to the back of the Mexican car, but no, Pakistan trying to get well out of the way and does so very effectively.
I don't know whether Nur Ali was really aware of what was going on. The speed that Mexico and France were bearing down on him through a very difficult part of the track was really a driver's focus is straight ahead, and 2 cars much quicker than his car, desperate to get through, and in particular France looking with 2 laps to go, and in effect by the time they get across the start finish line, that will be the last chance France has got to make any impression, because the final lap he will not be able to get past, in my view, into the Taj and the race will be over.
That's right, so we are leading around to the final lap now, and here we are with Team France looking for any opportunity to close up and perhaps have one last run down the main straight towards Tarzan. When they come out of these next two corners, it will be to start effectively their final lap. He's not quite close enough here, needs to be shadowing that Mexican car a little more closely.
He does, but the France car and South Africa car have always been the best cars in these high-speed contexts, but there you see the gap. There's no opportunity at all for France to do anything with Mexico. Mexico has done enough to consolidate that second place, and of course the only place that Mexico would be under threat would have been into Tarzan, and the next time round they'll be on the slowing down lap. This 12-lap sprint race will be over.
And South Africa are heading for victory, and not only that, it looks like they're going to be taking fastest lap as well. They will guarantee themselves the pole position for the feature race, because look, fastest lap of 1:29.125. He's done everything perfectly. He had pole for the sprint race, he's taken fastest lap, he's going to win this feature race, and that gives him 3 points, the minimum number of points you can get. That will guarantee pole for the feature race. But what a moment this is going to be for the entire A1 team South Africa.
Well, I mean, it's an amazing event. I mean, to turn up in a series like this and just a young man 19 years of age, and I mean a name that really is going to resonate through the walls of motorsport around the world. Everybody will know Adrian Zaug has arrived. Can you go and take the checkered flag?
He has arrived. He's driven absolutely flawlessly here. He took pole position under A1's unique qualifying system, where it's a real pressure cooker as you get to the last session. He dealt with that beautifully. He dealt with his first ever rolling start in a top international motor race, and it's Team South Africa to take their first ever win and become the 9th nation to win in A1GP. Mexico finishes in 2nd place, 3rd goes to France, a solid 4th for Germany, and 5th place goes to Great Britain.
And those two drivers, Germany and Great Britain, really just having fairly lonely afternoons in this first part of A1GP here in Zandvoort.
Behind Great Britain, then New Zealand taking 6th place, then it's the USA 7th, Canada in 8th place, and the Netherlands come home in 9th position, much to the delight there of the fans in the grandstand. So much support for the orange car this weekend, and Jeroen Bleekemolen, who had this thrust upon his shoulders last minute, has done well. Team France, though, they're celebrating a 3rd place finish, but what about that result for South Africa? Dana Cooper on the left there, Jean-Paul Driot on the right. Driot now looking after the engineering for Team South Africa, and Driot who looked after France and Mexico last year. Now their attention is on the South African car, on what a start to that relationship it is. But for the Dutch fans, they know their man's going to be strong in the second race into Parc Ferme, and the celebrations beginning already. Adrian Zaug is over the moon. There he is with Tokyo Sawali, the team owner, the seat holder for A1 Team South Africa. The result then, South Africa the winner from Mexico and France, Germany, Great Britain in 5th place, New Zealand in 6th, then USA, Canada, the Netherlands and Switzerland finishing in 10th place, having been moved back on that grid, of course, for this sprint race. Further on behind them, China finished in 11th place. It's a good effort for China, and of course if they can get inside the top 10 of the feature, they'll be in the points. Behind them we had Malaysia, Australia, Brazil, then Ireland, Lebanon, Czech Republic, Greece, Indonesia, Pakistan, Singapore out of the event, India, Italy as well. Unfortunately non-finishers, and that all-important fastest lap to South Africa, which will mean they will start from pole position in the feature. Well, there are the top 3 then as the anthem plays out. An absolutely brilliant achievement for Adrian Zaug. Tony Texera there, Deputy Chairman of A1, presenting the first of the medals. That goes to Nicolas Lapierre of Team France, and as they begin their title defence, I think they'll be relatively happy with a 3rd place finish. For Salvador Duran, this is a tremendous result. He's had a tough season in F3, and now he has bounced back into A1GP with a 2nd place. But we have a brand new winner, a new star. It's Adrian Zaug. He drives for South Africa, and if he continues to drive like that, well, they will be a factor for the outright title. No prize money on offer for the sprint race. He's going to have to do it all again in the feature to earn the big money. But just look on the smile on that young man's face. It is tremendous to see. He is delighted.